Bayethe bantwana bakagogo, thokozani bogogo nabomkhulu. I hope you are well, wherever it is that you find yourself on this plane of ours. It's been a while since singavele on this scene. I hope you can hear me clearly through these headphones. And today, from the Ombethe strand, we want to come in and just have a conversation. We like to call these conversations. These are conversations that we are having. So as I'm sitting and listening to the spirit or to the ether, to abogogo nabomkhulu, I find myself in an environment. I find myself in a conversation, and one of these conversations, I'm sitting with the elders, and the conversation goes like this. It's about time that we begin to tell our children, especially those who come from the Christian context, or what we would have today as the Christianity of the day. And I would go into Christianity, but in the same tone or in the same voice, I'm going to also all the other foreign religions, in the sense that these were things that later on in a time or somewhere along the timeline, they were brought to us. And for someone who would go and further study and analyze and dissect what it is that we have been given, then you will realize that at the core, there are some very deep misconceptions that have been propagated through these religious systems. And this religiosity or this religious mindset that we also have possessed as a people over the years, due to our history, obviously. But where we would want to go with you today is at that point that Abomkulu are saying, it's about time that we address these issues, or we address these matters at the core and fundamental point, because now what we have seen over the years is the battles that begin to ensue and carry on and begin, and these things end up being the very same things that end up not making us come together as a people, and we get to a point where we're saying, let us interrogate these things. Let us also be sober as a people and really analyze the things that have been brought to us, and how that has moved us from our beingness, because this is what this conversation is truly about. When someone does not understand the fundamentals that make up certain structures or systems that we find ourselves in, and we interact with those things in what we call life, So we are saying now, the reality now that stands is that Christianity, as in the way that it was brought to us, is a very distorted, and we have gotten the dark side of it, ironically speaking. We've gotten the lower vibrations of what this Christ spirit is, because now where our people perhaps tend to think ukuthi isintu does not recognize Christianity, is a misnomer. It doesn't make sense. It's a wrong interpretation. Let me put it like that, because when you begin to understand the journey of a sangoma, you will understand that this person is going through the initiations of Christhood all the way up until ayofika entwasweni yakhe, this particular being, you know. So now we will expand on that aspect, but where we are right now is at that point where now we would say now from the Sintu perspective to say the Christianity that we have today is not really the kind of Christianity that our ancestors practiced. And umuntu might say, but you are saying Christianity, and how are you bringing it? So by definition, Christianity is those who are in a movement to mimic the Christ or to be Christ-like, or yeah, I think that's the right one, to be Christ-like, so to follow in the paths of Christ, and by so doing, refining your own spirit, that you become title holders, as the Christ has said itself, that you shall be kings over the world if you are in me and I am as I am in the Father, as it were, So now, we are saying now, these misconceptions and lack of understandings that our children find themselves in become the very things that cause these frictions, these unnecessary frictions that happen amongst them, where now you find there's these two polarities standing now. You find those who are Sintu orientated, and you find those who are Christian orientated or Muslim orientated, because I'm not closing that door to the Muslims as well, because if you look at even their movement coming into where we are placed right now, called the place called South Africa, or Azania as other people would put it, it is to show the patterns of the same movement that was moving amongst our people, where these systems, when they came in, they removed an identity, a core identity from the people, and the people now found themselves identifying themselves with this particular infiltration. But because this infiltration now was hidden behind these images of unkulunkulu, or God, this is one word that invokes a reverence or a reverence or ukwesaba okuthize emuntwini, because now we understood the God concept and what it really and how it existed, or how we existed in relationship with this God force. You know what I'm saying? So anytime now you would throw God into the mixture, you know that you can shut a black person down. You can just shut them down, and they will just be receptive. And if you look at it that aspect from even a psychological point of view, that almost becomes like a hypnotic suggestion. I just need to throw God inside, and in the meantime I throw God, then somewhere in your conscious or in your subconscious mind, you will freeze, or you will come to a particular attention now, because now I've mentioned this name God, and only because of your association with this idea or with this concept called God. You know what I'm saying? And now this is the points where we are coming to our children, and we are saying it will be nonsensical for them to think that before we had an interaction with these people who have infiltrated us in terms of our timelines and history, that we did not have a concept. I come from a Christian upbringing, for one, you know what I'm saying. I was a Roman Catholic at some point, and but my essential growing church was the apostolic faith, was the movement of the apostles, simply put, So this is the church that I would grow under, and go through the different ranks in there until I was anointed a priest in there, So now, I'm saying now, these are some of these core principles, because now, somewhere, somehow in the psyche of our people, the meantime we start mentioning the name of God, it is almost as if now it is something that is so detached away from them. You know what I'm saying? It's a detached element that now it requires them to get into a certain mind state or a certain beingness, so that now they can be able now to go into the state that we may even call a holy state. You know what I'm saying? So now, understanding these fundamentals now, we are saying to our children that now, for them to even think or conceive that our ancestors or the ancestors, you know what I'm saying, because we are custodians of them as abantwana bakamoya namhlanje, you know, to say we've had our own concepts, we've had the understanding or fundamental understandings on the constructs of nature, the universe, galaxies, and multiverses and multi-dimensions, and all of these things that seemingly today or along the times they were made to be spooky, but now they are being presented in different ways this time around, and somewhere somehow people cannot see the game that's being played, you know. So now we are saying it's about time that we address this issue about the fact that Christianity as a product that was brought to us really damaged us at a fundamental core beingness of ubuntu bethu as a people, and some would choose to deny it because now again the core movement here is because this has to do with a God concept, you know, and we are saying a God concept because now when we are saying God concept, we are saying now, understand that there was a people, and we are saying to you that those people had a system, they had a way, they had an understanding on how they worked with nature and reality and life as a whole. And that element of that understanding had an idea of what a God is. So now we find people who would come and present now this product in front of us, and now somewhere somehow we take our own mindset and attach it to that particular mindset, and now somewhere somehow that mindset that we have adopted is a mindset that really stems from us. I hope you can follow the logic there. Now, this is another thing that will make our people, again, fall into the spirit of self-denial. You understand that? Because black people are one of the peoples, we are the only people who really hate ourselves. You know what I'm saying? We don't really want to look at ourselves. We don't really want to look at the things that we truly are. You know what I'm saying? And partly because we have been nurtured in an environment that moves us from not being able to look at us, because now somewhere somehow in the subconscious programming of these systems that have been brought to us, parts of us have been demonized. You understand? Where today you would find other people in these religious movements or Christianic movements as an amhlanje, you know, and I apologize to just highlight Christianity, but I'm saying this is one field that I grew up under, and I know a lot of people have grown under, whether you are Mzalwane namhlanje or whether you are the old churches of our grandmothers and grandfathers. You know what I'm saying? Somewhere in between it is the same frequency, but moving in the spirit of Christianity. So now I'm saying Uti now, somewhere somehow these systems, when they came in, they moved a certain level of self-identity to a place where you block yourself away from certain things that would happen. You know, I mean, I would have Christian friends who would have very profound dreams, very, very, very deep, profound dreams, and some of these dreams would involve their ancestry. You know what I'm saying? And now that I know better, or on the other side, I would hear how they would shun that, and then they would throw the name of Jesus and against those spirits, and why the hell would their ancestors be coming, because they should be somewhere amongst the dead, because now somewhere somehow they are demonic spirits and stuff like that. And this is another spell that we are telling you as our children, that and when we are saying spell, we are saying a spiritual blindness. So we are saying there's a certain level of spiritual blindness that has been put over your head, because now somewhere somehow you guys have been blocked to understanding the continuity of life. Because now anybody who would say, I can communicate with the afterlife, I can communicate with the so-called dead, and dead again is a concept that is only fractionalized within the Christian mindset. It's done, there's nothing else that's going on. And we are saying, but you in the very same Bible books that we read, we are told that man is purely a spirit, is a spirit inhabiting this environment called our bodies. You know what I'm saying? So how the hell can an eternal thing end up dead? You understand? So we are saying to those who are gifted or those who are able now to communicate with the continuity of life, not with the dead. A dead is something that will be the body that is left on this planet because it is the spacesuit that we have to travel this dimension. But it does not mean that the spirit is the one now that begins to die. You understand? So somewhere, somehow they created a block for you to fear these communications. They feared for you to make contact with the continuity of life. And because of those blocks, these are some of these blindfolds. This is where most of the blindfolds are for most of you, because now there are certain concepts that have been presented to you that are so totally contradictory to our state of being, to who we are as a beingness, as a people, as umuntu. So now we begin to identify ourselves as even Christian. It's still an attachment. It is not something that is inherent in you. This is something that you are also taught as you go along. And others end up rebelling. You understand, when they begin now to question certain things that happen in life, in the natural being. You understand, where things are happening in life, in the natural being state, and those now that we find in our religious mindset or cultural mindsets or traditional mindsets. So these are things that we come in and then we begin to learn. So now we are saying now, in somewhere, because now when these systems came in, they broke a certain timeline. Let us say the continuity timeline, or the continuity of history, or the continuity of genes. Togozan. The continuity of the gene is a timeline starting from time infinite, for wherever life began, until this point that you are also now another person who has come, or another being that has come now to fulfill their mission or their storyline in this time frame, in this longer time frame that we call ancestry. So now we are saying now, when these systems came in, all these religions, especially those of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, zonke lezi zinto lezo moved you from these core understandings that we had as a people. So now, how did they do that? By coming in and really introducing concepts and ideas that do not speak to the coreness of your being or to the coreness of your natural being. So we are saying now, these now became certain studies. Now, this is where a lot of you now will also begin to get lost in the program, where we're saying to you now, the Christhood was now became a school. It became a mystery school. It became a special school. This is why we are saying in our histories, when you go back and understand the mystery schools, in other words, intwaso zethu, or our levels of education, or our varsity or our advanced studies of life, which is what iphehlo, or what ubungoma, or umuntu osebenza ngabantu abadala is really called upon to understand the higher principles of this working principle called life. Now these are studies, and some of these studies now have been taken in this system yanamhlanje, and they've been put in varsities, and they've been put in these learning institutions. These were things that were being taught to someone now who would be so-called called back in the days. So we know that this Christ spirit was not a new thing to us. It is not a new thing. Like I'm saying to you, I'm an initiated Sangoma, 17 years in the business as a working Sangoma. So I'm saying now, that process for me, and having initiated others, that process in itself is the process of coming to your Christhood, where your older self is dying, and you are dying for the sins of those, and through that particular ritual, you shall be ascended, or you shall come with the wings of justice, which are the wings of healing. If you understand what the symbolism is within ubungoma nabo, you will understand that these were the hidden principles of this Christ consciousness, or this Christ spirit that we are talking about. So we are saying now, when Christianity wants to come and point fingers at Isintu as if it is backward in not understanding this principle or this concept of this God held within the Christian mindset, because Christianity is a mindset, Islam is a mindset. If they all agreed about God in in a collective manner, then these mindsets wouldn't even be a problem, because some wars are started because of these so-called belief systems. So somewhere, somehow, wonke lama belief systems, khona la sibhedisa khona, because they are not making us tune in back into life, into reality, into natural state of being. Ubuntu. Thokozani bakagogo. So now, we are here at this point where we are saying to you now, for them to now begin to point fingers and say, hey, isintu is backwards, or isintu is about idol worship, is about ancestral worship and all of those things, and they don't realize that even Christianity, in the context that it is a transported or an imported product that is coming from a certain people, that means this is a particular system of indigenizations of their own reality and understanding about life. So in other words, now when you adopt the Christianity or that we have seen over the years, over the centuries at least, you understand, you are adopting yourself into another culture of another person. You understand? Because it really amazes me sometimes when we have these conversations with our Christian brothers and sisters, where they will not realize that even the boy Jesus was a Jewish boy. And in the scriptures themselves, I think it's in Mark, if I'm not mistaken, they will tell you after 8 days that this Jewish boy was taken to a temple, and the rituals of the Jewish child were performed for him. And then Tina, we come back ngesintu and we say umntwana kumele ayenzelwe imbeleko, umntwana kumele ayenzelwe isiko. And someone somewhere in their mindset, they would want to detach the fact that Christ in the traditions of a Jewish boy, because he was raised a Jewish laity. Now I'm a Xhosa laity, I'm a Sotho laity, I'm a Zulu laity, I'm a Ndebele laity, I'm a Venda laity. What does that mean for me? Must I now begin to detach them myself from that aspect? Yet he practiced. You understand? They practiced isiko lamaJuda upon him. Until such a time. So now when a sangoma will come and say to you, hey, can I please drink some water? So we were saying now, somewhere, somehow, we would want to detach ourselves, you understand? And these were the problems that I had now as a Christian boy growing. We would, okay, I realized that Jesus now was raised a Jew, young Zusisa, at the points where all the rituals that were meant for Jewish children to be performed for them, they were performed for him, young Zusisa. And now I was back here and I was like, okay, now if Nami I am Bantu person, that means Nami I have my own way of ugenza izinto. And now how does that now detach myself or detach me from my so-called faith, or so-called my understanding, or my so-called prescription to God? That cannot be. Yet the master himself is the one who was also raised a Jewish boy. I hope you can understand this logic. Because this is where we are saying to you, this is why we are saying it becomes an imported product on your part, because now somewhere, somehow, you find yourself getting confused in how do you identify yourself with that system. Now when we bring these particular scriptures to you to say, now all of them all the rituals of Jewish men were performed on these so-called men of God. So what were they first before they became these men of God? They were Jews. Whatever. You understand? They were Jews and they did the things of the Jews, yet they had the Spirit of God. So now we are saying to our people or our children, now when you begin now to not see isintu sagini or ubuntu bakho, or who are the people who have brought the seed, who have brought your consciousness, who have brought your beingness. Now how can it be manje laba bantu laba naba do not also recognize you as some Christ, for example, to them, that you will grow as a whatever indigenous tribe that you find yourself in, or nationality, but in the same breath you can also have the spirit esikaNkulunkulu, or the spirit esikamoya oyingcwele, that will come and work with you. This is who we are namhlanje. I have no misunderstanding fundamentally that nationally I am an indigenous soul, I am indigenous being, I am a natural soul of this planet. Before there are all of these talks and religions and movements and cultures and traditions and all of these things, essentially I am just a being coexisting with other natural beings on this planet. And my definition comes from that central point. Uyangithola into ezinjalo. So now when I say now ngipractice isintu, in understanding ukuthi isintu now was a science of living, was a science of ukuphila. You understand? And that science had everything to do with understanding how the principles of nature and the universe work. This is isintu, bakagogo. Not our tribal laws, not amasiko esigcine nathi sezizikhandela wona within our individual tribes. Uyangizwisisa into ezinjalo? Because now there's a problem now when now you start even coming to isintu and then we start asking ukuthi kahle kahle lesi sintu naso siyini, because somehow even the Sintu people cannot seem to agree on what this sintu is. Thokozani bakagogo. So we are saying now that is a conversation of another day, but where we are with you right now is that there's a spiritual warfare that happens when an African child has to self-identify, because now there's these ideas that are contradictory in their core constructs of reality and understanding, that now this internal war that is happening now begins to create certain anxieties and unexplained fears, that people will end up now even making choices based on those particular fears, even at a subliminal level. And at that point I speak as a healer. You understand? Now there are layers to which some of these experiences have embedded themselves. Now you would call this DNA memory, because I will tell you right now as a spiritual healer or as a spiritual worker, there are certain souls that are trapped within the misconcepts of the Christianity that was brought upon us. These are our ancestors, and we have to free them from some of these dimensions because they confused their souls, they confused their spirits. You understand? Now they become lost in particular dimensions. And city kunomsebenzi kagogo kumele yenze, fanele nenze umsebenzi kagogo nimlande nimbuyise lana ekhaya, or fanele nenze umsebenzi kamkhulu ukuthi nimgeze, kumele nigeze amadlozi wala ekhaya. You understand? The logic behind that is that we understand that some of our beings, or some of those who have in the continuity of life, who have gone into a different state of life after this planet, after this plane of being, some of them cannot transition into higher worlds. They cannot transition because somewhere they are caught up in some of these ideas that were held in here, because ideas are spirit, thoughts are spirit. So if now the spirit that taught you was fundamentally based on a lie, then that means you have been living in a level of a true lie. Because now when we ask you at a fundamental core, who are you before the attachments to all of this Christianity, I bet most of us do not even have an idea. We cannot even come to that understanding. It really shocks your spirit to even begin to reason from that point. So now we are saying to you, now this becomes a mind game for most of you now, because now you would find those who are in the middle who will say, okay, Isintu has this and that and that, and then they will judge it and have that. And then there's those who stand on this other side and they will like, yeah, this is what Christianity has. And again, those at the end of the day, they will say, okay, I'm for this one because it fulfills a certain profile, or I'm for this one because it fulfills a certain profile that I can fit in. So now this now becomes, Isintu now becomes a religious movement in itself, and now Christianity becomes, and now it becomes these people competing on who's better than who in terms of now reaching this God form. Yangzu says now you would find others in this side of this Christianity running away from their self-identity because there are experiences that are happening from their natural beingness. There are natural experiences that are happening to their beingness, but they will shut it down. They will shut down their souls. They will shut down their communication with spirit. They will shut down that God aspect in them. In the name of following a particular God and whatever these ideas that they hold in there. I will tell you right now, Christianity attempts to go into matters of spirit, and when you are a study, when you study, when you come into these higher classrooms of spirit or life, there are many concepts that many of you have not held, and they could not be held in a little book called the Christian Bible. They cannot. But as time goes, we will show you that even it in its corrupted form, because these are some of the points that we also bring to our children, that do you also recognize that this book was interfered with, that a hand of man interfered with this book? So how do you know what's resources within yourself do you have that you can confirm for yourself these things that we are saying to you? Because some of you are very lazy. You are very lazy to study. You are very lazy to research, and especially if it's anything outside of the Bible. Another fear-based mentality. I mean, if the Bible holds the truth, then it must not fear other truths that will come and challenge it. Then it must still be able to stand as truth fundamentally, not because as a movement of psychological thinking or psychological convincing for you now to enter into that space. Thokozani bakagogo. Because now you all think masikhuluma ngesintu, we're talking about something that is intellectual, that now you think it's about us reasoning about this God idea and God concept. Our concepts about God will shut down your whole Christian bug and just throw it to the dirt as if your God is just another boy, which it is. But anyway, we are not there right now. You understand? We are at the point, Uguti. Guys, it's time for you to wake up. It is time for you to wake up and really interrogate. And I'm not only talking from a Christian perspective, also interrogate listen to the scene too, because our people have also become very disturbed psychologically. Some of them will come with Christian ideas and come to isintu and think the same principles that work ngale are the same principles that work this side. We are working with universal principles, multiversal principle, omniversal principles. These are the different ascension levels within your beingness in the ascension of this Christ consciousness or this Christ idea. Because ubukresto in essence and from the Greek understanding is one who is anointed. So we've always had anointed people. I am one of them. If I had to put it like that, there are many, even today, there are many anointed souls out there who are Christs. They are Christ in the full sense of the word, but they won't realize it because there's this certain idea of this holy being who is untouched and without sin and whatever. You understand? And I'm saying that is also a very narrow-minded way of looking at things, because 18 years go missing in the Bible of the Christians. 18 years of this man goes missing in the Bible. What was happening? Where was the soul traveling? What was happening in that storyline? So you get caught up now. Now, what is the process of coming to Christhood? What is the levels that one needs to go through? So you guys just put it on your pastors only, and you forget that this is a process for each and every single soul on this planet. And it seemed to never forgot that. You understand? At different levels we gave teachings to our children because we understood them firstly as gogo nabomkhulu. These are ancient souls that have returned back to us, and now we must restore them to the original teachings or isintu. Thokozani, that allowed us now to be God-like on this planet. Some of the things that you will hear about the black people are very amazing things because that is exactly what it was. But somehow they twisted it for you. Bantwana bakagogo. Bomkhulu namakhetla, we don't mean to come harsh at these points, but we are just trying to emphasize a point here. Now, the religious concepts that we hold today have really binded us in unraveling who we truly are. And because of that, this spiritual turmoil and uneasiness about beingness is still going to overcome you as if you are not complete or enough for life. Thokozani bomkhulu. Sizobuya bantwana bakagogo. Siyabuya. Ombethe. Ndawo.